Do we all need to get angry? Do we need to go on strike? Or do we need to throw in the towel on the feminist cause and call it a day now? Okay, obviously that last one is not an option. My name is Stephanie Melodia, and I am hugely passionate about women in business, entrepreneurship, financial empowerment, and helping advance the feminist agenda. Today is International Women's Day, and honestly, I'm feeling pretty conflicted. I'm sure many other women are. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's a fantastic initiative, and it forces the conversation around gender equity into more mainstream discourse. But I think what I'm conflicted about is not only the fact that it's a single day in the year, but it's really highlighted not only our lack of progress, but breaks my heart to say how we've actually gone backwards in many ways. Take, for example, in the UK, less than 2% of venture capital goes into female founder teams. I actually read that those numbers have been updated, and as of last summer, that number has dwindled to about 1.8%. But this is my problem. Things are getting worse in a number of different ways, I'm sorry to say, whether it's the pay gap, the funding gap, the pension gap, without even mentioning the fact that women live longer than men. So where's all the finances coming from to fund our longer lives on this planet? The problem that I have is, how helpful is it to keep rehashing those same statistics? Because I, for one, have not only heard them over and over and over, but in fact, 5 years ago to the day, BC, before COVID, pre-pandemic, I actually hosted a big International Women's Day event, and I was citing the same statistics. So that provided a really clear marker in time for me to look back and say, okay, 5 years have gone by and nothing is happening. Okay, well, actually, sometimes it comes in handy to have those statistics available when a male investor who may not be fully aware of how dire the situation is exactly. The problem is, upon further reflection, that still doesn't help, that doesn't change things. And to my deep disappointment, even though you're presenting these men in finance with the numbers and speaking the lingo that should really be resonating with them, the truth is it still doesn't for a lot of them. And yes, those are people of a particular generation. It doesn't seem to actually help. So it got me thinking, what do we actually need? What is it we actually need to make progress? Because so many of us are feeling beyond frustrated. And I'm conscious also of us not overexpending our valuable energy and becoming a martyr in the process. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to energize. We need to fuel up, because we'll be no good to anyone if we burn out in the process, right? I had the pleasure of actually attending an event with Holly Tucker, MBE, this week. She's the co-founder of Not on the High Street, which she set up about 20 years ago. She is now in the process of launching her next venture, and even she is coming up against challenges when it comes to fundraising for her business. Now, what I'm seeing very positively here is that these women, like as theorized from years and years ago, these women who precede us, who are coming up the ranks, are paving the way for female entrepreneurs. So Holly Tucker set up her business more than 2 decades ago. She had this phenomenal success. I'm sure she had it much harder than we did today. I'm sure she was up against so many other challenges and hurdles. Thanks to people like her, thanks to women in particular who have gone through those same struggles and are finding the same battles over and over again, she's not only recognizing that she has the power to change the system, but she also has the means. And going through a phase of initially girl power in the 90s as a big Spice Girls fan, through to women's empowerment, joining communities and networks here in London, through to then championing male allyship and saying, actually, guys, we need you in this fight. Surely it makes sense if most of the seats around the boardroom table are still occupied by men, makes sense to make them our friends, right? Our allies. But where we're sat today, 8th of March, 2025, it's not been enough. Nothing has happened. It doesn't feel like there have been any serious needle movers. Honestly, if anything, This is reminding me of the scenes in Squid Game 2. So, spoiler alert, if anyone hasn't watched the second season of Squid Game and they're planning on doing so, then skip the next part because there's some spoilers here. But if you're familiar with Squid Game, and hopefully you are, so you get the reference, the winner from the first one, he basically comes back a second time. And when he rejoins the game in season two, he's on a mission to save as many lives as possible. And he wants to bring in everything that he learned, his intel, what he experienced firsthand. So, very noble mission. But what happens is, I don't know if any other viewers noticed as well. So, leave me a comment. Tell me if you saw the same thing, right? Any time he spoke up and sought to rally the troops and share his knowledge and share the secret and warn everyone from not joining the next game or not doing this, any time that he spoke up and felt very impassioned about it, what happened? They all turned against him. You see, when the pendulum swings in one direction, it swings further back in the other way. What happens is through very well-intentioned, well-meaning activities, that it faces a backlash and it faces an overcorrection. And this is absolutely what is happening with the feminist agenda today in 2025. All you need to look at is the manosphere, the incels, the Gen Z, the TikTokers who think that feminism has gone too far, who prescribe to the church of Andrew Tate and see him, look up to him as an admirable role model. This is what's happening. I predicted that this would happen in a manifesto that I wrote years ago. I thought that this would happen with all of these women's only clubs and communities and so much on the surface, seemingly wonderful things to empower and motivate women and build our confidence. But what has happened is it's only you have got to feel breaking is too easy, but that's the way it is. Their natural reaction is to be defensive. And so we're experiencing what I believe is backlash. And we're experiencing an overcorrection with this absolutely not the intended cause whatsoever. And so I think that we need to be more strategic. Sometimes when you push too hard on something, all it does is tighten its grip even further. That's not to say that we need to soften and like let go. That isn't what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is we need to rethink our approach and we need to be more strategic and look at changing the system. So back to what I was saying with Holly Tucker, she's come to this realization that no one else is going to come and save the day. That for all of these social media posts and rehashing of the same statistics and, whoa, this report has just been published and look how bad the sad state of affairs is, we're not seeing change. If anything, the change we're seeing is in the opposite direction, which is absolutely not what the intended mission here was. So I've gone through these various microwaves, let's call them, in recent years of girl power in the 90s, women in business coming together with these private members clubs and communities and networks, which by the way, I love. And then we've gone through this wave of male allyship and banging that drum and saying, guys, like, you need to be in the conversation here as well. Like, feminism is not a women's problem, it's a social issue. And there's huge amounts of data and arguments that show how feminism is great for men too. This isn't a women's only thing. And so I'm feeling this week incredibly inspired by Holly Tucker, again, to shout out her in particular. She is now taking it upon herself to start a new movement. She's going to be sharing more information on that. But I think that that's what it's going to take now. I think we've gone beyond the girl power, the echo chambers, the male allyship. And I think now, very thankfully, there are still amazing women out there who are succeeding, who have either exited their last business by whatever means. They are financially empowered. And it's these women, I honestly believe, of this other generation who are coming before us that have realized that there isn't a knight in shining armor that's coming to save the day, that the younger generation don't have the means to really affect change in a financial way. It's these women who had to go through it themselves, who are now at that stage in their career and their lives where they know if they want to leave a legacy and make that impact, it's down to them. Let me know your thoughts. I'd really genuinely love to hear how you're feeling about International Women's Day, what that means to you. Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think we should scrap it? Do you think what's the conversation we need to be having here? Who do you look up to? I want to get your thoughts on this too. So do leave me a comment. Obviously, it would be a massive help if you want to hit that subscribe button too. And I look forward to seeing you next time.